All right, let's dive into what's really going on with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's trip to Johannesburg for the G20 Leaders Summit. This is way more than just another diplomatic trip. It's a huge strategic move, and it has massive implications for India and for all the developing nations we call the Global South. So, what's really at stake here? And right off the bat, what makes this G20 summit so different is where it's happening. I mean, think about it. For the very first time, this incredibly powerful group of economies is meeting on African soil. Now, that's not just some nice symbolic gesture. It actually changes the entire conversation. It forces issues like development, debt, and fair access to resources right to the very top of the agenda.
So let's zoom out a little and really set the stage for why this summit is so historic.
Now, just look at the theme for the summit: solidarity, equality, sustainability. Those words were not chosen by accident. They're a direct reflection of its location and a clear signal that the conversation is going to be about a lot more than just the usual concerns of the world's richest countries. It's about addressing the urgent needs of the Global South.
Okay, so where does India fit into all of this? Well, India isn't just showing up to take a seat at the table. It's arriving with a very specific, very powerful vision that's shaping its entire approach to the G20.
And this vision is perfectly captured in the Prime Minister's own words. It's all rooted in this ancient Sanskrit principle, Vasudhaiva Kutungakam, which basically means the world is one family. And listen, this is so much more than a catchy slogan. It's the core idea driving India's foreign policy, shaping how it thinks about everything from the economy to climate change.
If you break down the official agenda, it's split into three main sessions. You've got inclusive growth, building a world that can withstand threats like climate change, and then figuring out a fair future with things like AI and the race for critical minerals. See the pattern here? All these themes tie right back to that idea of a sustainable and equitable world for everyone. So how does India actually turn that big vision into a real plan? Well, it boils down to a pretty clear three-step strategy. First up, confronting the crushing debt that's holding back so many developing countries. Second, really stepping up as a leader in the global fight against climate change. And third, and this is absolutely key given where the summit is, building secure supply chains for critical minerals, which, of course, Africa has in abundance.
But, the big agenda items are really only half the story at these summits. A huge part of what gets done happens in the strategic meetings on the sidelines. And for India, it's all about forging key alliances. Two meetings in particular are worth watching. First, there's the IBSA meeting. This brings together India, Brazil, and South Africa, a really powerful group of democracies from the Global South, to get on the same page. Then there's the crucial one-on-one with the host, President Cyril Ramaphosa, to make that direct India-South Africa partnership even stronger.
And remember that one family idea we were talking about? It's not just talk. When the Prime Minister landed, he was greeted by the local Indian diaspora with singing and dancing. It's just a perfect, vivid example of the human connections that are really the foundation for all these big political and economic talks.
So once the summit wraps up and everyone goes home, what's left? What are the real long-term ripple effects of this visit for India and really for the rest of the world? There are three big potential outcomes to keep an eye on. This could kick off a whole new chapter for India-Africa relations, centered on those critical minerals, trade, and clean energy. It could also solidify India's role as the leading voice for the Global South inside the G20. And finally, holding the summit in Africa puts a ton of pressure on the wealthy nations to make sure the green energy transition doesn't leave the developing world behind. And all of this leaves us with one final massive question. Looking beyond just the G20, are we actually witnessing the birth of a much deeper, much more strategic alliance between the Indian subcontinent and the African continent? Only time will tell, but it's pretty clear that the seeds are being planted right now in Johannesburg.